Have you ever walked in a room trying to prove yourself and later you feel like people just didn't really vibe with you? Like you probably didn't mean to push them away, but when you're trying too hard to be respected, it can make people feel a little bit guarded around you. And that's a social cue that a lot of ambitious people miss. They think that being sharp gets them ahead, but people really respond to how you make them feel. And that's what we saw in Netflix show $1 Million Secret with this girl named Natalie. Now, for those who don't know the show, I'm going to recap it for you so we're all on the same page. So grab a snack, get you a little glass of wine, and come in for a chat because we're going to have a good time. Now, $1 Million Secret, just to recap, it's pretty much a competition show where there's a bunch of people, I think maybe around like 15 people, both young, old, from different walks of life. They're all on a show competing to win $1 million. So it starts off with one person is assigned the money at the beginning of the show, like first episode, and nobody knows who it is. So the concept is everybody's trying to figure out who's holding the million, like who is the millionaire. So they're getting clues from the host that's supposed to be helping them along the way, and everyone's watching each other. They're all over analyzing everyone's moves. They're catching like if any slip ups happen. And the whole time the millionaire is trying to act normal. They're trying not to get exposed, because if they get exposed, they lose the money and they end up getting eliminated. But if they make it to the very end without getting caught, then they keep all the money and they are officially the next millionaire on the block. So the whole time, the host is giving like secret challenges to the millionaire, just trying to, so that way the millionaire can get advantage points. And that can be like kill shots or pretty much extra votes to eliminate like their other contestants, or they get to shift the money around to somebody else. So that way it takes pressure off of their back. Now, mind you, some of these challenges can be a little weird. Like one of them was, I remember last season, one of them was like to hug strangers. This season, they were getting the contestant to like say weird phrases to people in the house without getting caught. Like these challenges are, they're pretty much custom tailored to the person that they choose, and they have to make sure they do it discreetly without anyone noticing. So this show is really about, can you read people? Can you handle not folding under pressure? Can you lie and deceive people in order to get to the money? So it's very like psychologically based. Now, we're in season 2. Here comes in this woman named Natalie. Natalie is this beautiful, young, fit woman from the 305. So she is a Miami babe. She's very sharp. She's articulate. She's quick on her feet. She's outspoken. She's sharp. She's confident, and automatically, like I can tell, like she's pretty much the eye candy of the show. Like face card, beautiful. Body is it's her body's curvy. So, and let's be real, like in social settings like this, having being attractive, having some, being eye candy can be an advantage if it's played right. I want to preface it by saying if it's played right, it could be an advantage. One thing to keep in mind in social settings, when you're attractive, it gets you attention. People notice attractive individuals when they first walk into a door. And there's even some studies that show that attractive people, they have this thing called like a halo effect, where people assume that you are more confident, you are more smarter, you are more sociable because you're attractive. And also there's a bit of social currency too. When you're eye candy, like people are automatically eager to, they want to talk to you, they want to be your friend. And especially if you're an attractive woman and you're in a group of men, it's a lot easier to try and get engagement from that. So now here's the problem. Natalie played the whole social game wrong. Like on the show, especially when you're in the beginning stages, the whole point is to build some type of trust amongst your peers, which is kind of ironic because it's a game about lying and deceiving people for money. But nevertheless, it's the same principle that applies. So people don't know you, and they're still trying to suss you out to see if you're a threat and to see if you're someone that they can actually trust. It's a similar thing like in the animal kingdom. You want to be likable. You need alliances because there's power in numbers, and because they're voting every single episode, like every single episode, there's like an elimination where they try and all vote to see who's the millionaire. So votes count early on. That's why those alliances are strong. Now, with the thing is with Natalie is that the energy she gives is almost like a shark energy. Like she was doing too soon, too quick. Like anybody that was in her way can come get it. Like she was she was interesting. Like I remember when I was watching it with my man, we both looked at each other and I was like, I don't think she's gonna make it too far in this show. And he agreed with me because this shark like energy, it was like she was hunting, like she was out for blood, and you can tell, like she was very calculated and strategic, and sometimes it didn't come off as warm to some people. And also, she was a little dismissive when it comes to some social boundaries. So people called her out for cutting them off, for undermining them, for talking down on them, calling people names.
Do not talk down to me. If we were back home, you would be on the floor.
The interesting part is that in the first episode, she was the first person that got the secret clue about the millionaire, which was that the millionaire that they chose is the firstborn. So instead of sharing it with like a few trusted people, so that way she can gain trust and some type of like social capital in the setting, she decided to play interrogator. She started drilling people, and this was in her own words, by the way. And she pretty much kept the clue to herself up until an elimination, where she then told everyone just so she could maintain some type of control. So it's safe to say she was a little relentless throughout her time on the show. And, some people watching may think, she has a strong personality, and there's nothing wrong with that. I too have a strong personality, but the difference is I know how to read the room. I have to. And from this show, if I would say from this show, that shark like energy is needed when it's like down to 4 contestants, when it's like every man for themselves and you have to look out for yourself to win the money. But when you're in the beginning stages, when you're just meeting everyone, that beginning requires some type of dolphin like energy on the surface, and then on the inside you can be a shark, but you can't let people know. And that's exactly, if you think back to season 1, the winner of season 1, I think her name was Kara Keys. She played it well. Like she was a dolphin in the beginning. Like everybody liked her. She was super like collaborative team player. And then when it came to like the final 2, with her and this one other guy named Corey trusted this girl because they built like a great relationship throughout the show. That's how she was able to stab him in the back, which is how she won the money. But nobody knew because of how she was acting earlier on in the season. So when I say dolphin like energy, I mean people who are like friendly and collaborative. Like I'll give you an example. I remember growing up, there was this place called Marineland in Canada. It's this theme park and zoo. I don't think it's opened anymore. I think they closed it down like years ago. But I remember growing up and watching like in commercials about Marineland, and you would see the theme park, and one thing they always showed was the dolphins. Like you would see the dolphins come up and kiss people and come say hi. And I remember as a kid, I would watch that and I would get some type of, I would feel so warm and fuzzy, and I would have like a smile on my face because who wouldn't want to see dolphins? Like I thought they were cute. So everybody wants to be around a dolphin because they're playful. It's fun, it's energetic, it's collaborative. Dolphins are attuned to human emotion, building trust, building connection. And from this show, Before it's every man for themselves, you need to build trust and connection, especially early on. Like, people need to like you. Not everyone, but most or like some people need to like you and or like working with you. And for Natalie, I really wish she saved that energy, that shark like energy towards the very end of the game, because that was what she needed to actually win. But unfortunately, her timing and her energy was a little bit off. So she was bringing, the girl was bringing end game energy in a point of the game that needed safety. Number one, you needed to connect with people and you needed to be collaborative for people. But people thought she was moving mad. She was moving a little crazy. She was getting into confrontations with people, fighting people. So yeah, they didn't like her, so she got booted and she got eliminated, I think like in episode 2. Now, this is the part people don't like to admit, because it's not just about Natalie in this case, but we gotta have to be real here. How many of us, both men and women, but I'm specifically going to be, highlighting women here, especially minority women, especially black women. How many of us feel that constant pressure to want to prove ourselves so that way people don't underestimate you? And this can show up in work, in business, and even in relationships. Like, how many of us come in strong thinking that we're doing the right thing, but we felt the energy in the room shift and we didn't know what we did. We thought we were doing our thing and just existing, and you're over there like, scratching your head confused. And people think that, if I'm sharp and I'm strategic and I'm smart, then I'm going to get ahead in life. And this, I noticed that this mentality is very common, like around amongst like immigrant families, immigrant backgrounds. And I myself too am an immigrant. Like, my family and I, we moved from Nigeria to Canada when I was 6. So I grew up in an immigrant household, and the type of parents I had, they taught me that it is what you know. They grilled education down my head, down my throat, reading books, being smart, being articulate, like the whole nine. Especially my mom, because she's a school teacher. So growing up, she always taught me, you gotta know your onions. You gotta know your shit. You gotta know your onions. Meaning you gotta be on point. You gotta be smart. You gotta be competent. And and the older I get, the more I realize that there are a lot of dumbasses in high ranking roles, whether it be like CEO level or high, like executive titles or politicians. Like, did that rule skip them? Like, did it not apply to them at all? And when you start to observe and you realize that these individuals, right, that may not seem smart on paper, they all exhibit some type of dolphin like traits. Because that's when you start to realize that the people who actually move up, they aren't always like the smartest ones in the room. They just know how to make people feel comfortable around them. They know how to be likable. And even if the end goal is some type of like advancement or promotion or whatever the case may be, or some type of business opportunity, they know how to read the room, feel people out, and just make people feel at ease first before they eventually make their move. At the end of the day, people respond to how they feel around you. And if you make people feel interrogated, like they're being interviewed, like they're doing like an HR performance evaluation, like the way Natalie did, then you're gonna notice that people will start distancing themselves from you. They don't want nothing to do with you, no matter how smart you are at the end of the day. So that social timing is so important. And the thing is that a lot of people end up missing it, and they get it wrong, and they wonder why people reject them without even explaining why. Now, these were all things that I had to learn the hard way myself. And this happened when I was still working as an engineer in the field. Now, for those who don't know, I ended up pivoting careers, but I went to school for engineering, specifically industrial engineering, right? And I worked in the field for a couple years. I worked in automotive, I worked in logistics, worked in management consulting, worked in renewable energy. And a lot of those spaces are very male dominated. And being an engineer in those spaces, like it has a specific look to it, like specific look, if y'all know what I mean. And I don't fit that look. Like I don't fit the usual aesthetic. My personality, like the whole thing, it just didn't fit the environment sometimes. So I remember one day, right? I was out. This is when I was working at um it was a manufacturing, like an auto manufacturing company. So I had to go out in the actual facility floor collecting data. So that way, we were trying to gauge how efficient some of the workstations were. So I had to watch some of the operators, collect some data. So I was there with my pen, paper, tools were ready, camera, everything, all the documentation was ready to go on my end. And I had to report it later to my boss because that's what he assigned me to do. Now I get there and there was somebody from a different department, clearly wasn't happy that I was there. And their energy was very off. Like it was cold. I remember they were just sharp and they were very abrasive with their words. And even the way they were speaking to me, it wasn't like friendly, wasn't collaborative. Like it was almost like they were trying to test me a little bit. You know when someone's just trying to try you and they're trying to be subtle, but their energy is I'm picking off on their energy and they're talking down to you like that you don't know what you're doing. That was what it was giving. And this individual didn't give me the files and documentation from their end that I needed to make everything run smooth. So the whole process was slower than what it needed to be. And I remembered at the time, I was so irritated. I was so annoyed. I'm like, my body was hot. When you're about to pop off, that was literally me in the moment. I was hot. And when I was like, why was this person making it harder than it needed to be? Like in the moment, like I could feel myself switching. And I was like, okay, if if that's how you want to play, cool. So let me show you that I know my shit. So that was when I felt the need to be sharp. I was very direct. I was pretty much matching this person's energy. And keep in mind, it was a guy too, you know? So I was trying to match his energy too. If he wanted to be abrasive and sharp with me, I'm gonna be abrasive and sharp with you back. And I did a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Nothing that was gonna get me fired. Because at the end of the day, I still had school loans at that point in my life that I need to pay off. So my tone changed, my body language was different, the way I was speaking changed, and I got the data that I needed. I eventually did. But the whole interaction, I just remembered it. It was just so tense. It was uncomfortable. I didn't feel at ease, and there was no willingness, nobody saying, hey, let's collaborate, let's work together on this. And I remember just walking away thinking like this whole interaction didn't even have to go this way at all. And even though I knew what I was doing, even though I felt competent, even though I got the job done, the energy in that interaction just made everything harder than it needed to be. And that's when it clicked for me that it's not about knowing your stuff, it's how people feel when they're dealing with you overall. And moments like that, like when people feel challenged or they feel like they are being evaluated and or they feel like they have to defend themselves, they stop working with you and they start trying to work against you. So after learning the hard way, that's when I realized that it is not just about my story, it's about how you can start reading the room differently too. And what really helped me too is that I started paying attention to the moment, like right at the moment before I even spoke. And I know it sounds kind of basic because naturally we're very reactive people. That's almost the default setting. Like some people's default setting is to be reactive, especially when there's pressure to try and prove yourself. Like you know that feeling when your chest is tight, your brain is fast, you're thinking fast, and you just want to jump in and you just want to be sharp and you want to be reactive. And one thing to understand is that if there is some type of threat, whether it be physically, emotional, it's natural for us to want to defend ourselves, you know? Like if especially if the pressure's on. So even though it's hard to pause sometimes, I had to. And it doesn't have to be like a long awkward pause. It can be like a few second pause. And in that pause, like I'd ask myself one question. This situation that I'm in, do I need to be collaborative and build trust, or do I need to be decisive and take some type of action? Because in the past, I'm not gonna lie, I was treating every situation like it needed some type of like decisive action. Like I had to strike, I had to be correct, I had to lead, I had to prove something right away. And that shit, I'm not gonna lie, that shit is really exhausting. Like, exhausting. And then you realize that, most moments, especially in the beginning, it requires trust and collaborative energy. That's sort of like that dolphin energy that I mentioned earlier. And for some people, they may think that that pause will make you look weaker, but it actually allows you to choose the right energy that you need for that specific room that you're in, instead of just being reactive and reacting from pressure. And it also allows you to read the room from a place of, you know, safety and calmness, instead of trying to be superior or prove some type of superiority in the room. And that's the key difference between Natalie and what other people were doing on the show. From what we saw in the edit, because sometimes we got to give people benefit of the doubt, but from what we saw in the edit, she came in hot for the most part. It was the same energy for every moment, but you have to keep in mind that the actual winners of these type of shows, they pause, they read the room, and then they watch the moment, and then they respond from that. Now, once you're able to pause and match the moment, the next thing you want to do is listen a little bit deeper. And I don't just mean like hear the words that people are saying. I mean like, because there's some things that people say and you need to understand the why behind the words. And there's sometimes people don't say anything and you kind of have to like read their body language and read in between the lines. And I'll give you an example. There was this scene in episode 1 of the show when Natalie had the clue and she was being an investigator. She was trying to figure out who the millionaire is. And and like I mentioned earlier, the millionaire, the first clue was that the millionaire is the oldest sibling. So she was like, she narrowed it down to a few people. And one of the people that she was speaking with, she was trying to have like an open conversation with the person, trying to get to like know the person. But it came off, now watching it back, it came off very much interview like. And the person she was speaking to, his name was Alti, and he was actually the millionaire. He was the first millionaire that was picked. And he was obviously like trying to play it off cool, trying to like act normal while he still had to finish his secret challenge. So I only wish in that moment that Alti picked up on her energy and noticed that there wasn't really like a lot of warmth behind the questioning, and realized the why behind why she was asking him interview like questions, especially about how many siblings he had. He might have realized she was indeed just trying to hunt for information from him. But unfortunately, by the time he figured it out, it was used against him because he missed the energy, and she ended up using it as ammunition later, because they had an elimination dinner And that was when she brought it up to the rest of the contestants, and that was how he got voted off. So had he noticed, he probably may have been able to, like, I don't know, make something up, pretend something to get him by, or something to make him live another day in the house. But, you know, unfortunately that didn't happen. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that when somebody speaks, there's more than just the words that they're saying. You got to notice the tone, you got to notice the pauses, the natural inflections in their voice, the things that they emphasize, even the things that they're avoiding to say. Because a lot of times it's the message that is left unsaid that you need to pay attention to. Now, the third thing that really helped me out in social settings was staying warm and staying open, especially in the first like 15 minutes when you walk into any room. So, pretty much that first 15 minutes in any event, meeting, conference, social setting, whatever, you're not allowed to be strategic. Okay, don't be strategic. You just want to be curious, you want to be open, and you want to be warm, almost like children. Like, if there's one thing that I really notice is that, and I kind of envy a little bit, is that I miss how easy and innocent it was when you were a kid. There's such like a naivete when it comes to kids, and when they're meeting new people. Like, there's this natural openness, like everybody's automatically their friend. But as we grow up, we're taught things like stranger danger, you got to be careful, you got to protect yourself. And rightfully so, with the kind of world we live in, you kind of have to do those things. But then what happens over time is that we get really guarded, and we're defensive, and we're always looking out for like threat, just to make sure that we protect ourselves instead of actually connecting with people. And then the more we do that, we then lose that natural ability to be curious, that ability to just be open. So you start to realize that as you get older, like, this is just something that you quite literally have to be intentional about. You have to choose to want to be open, especially after you've gone through like heartbreak, or any sort of like hurt or like disappointment from someone. I know sometimes it can be hard to be open after experiencing that. But one of the ways that you can easily do so is when you're interacting with people, not forming any sort of opinions or judgment, or trying to offer some type of solution. So no, here's what we should do. And the easiest way to do this is like literally ask two genuine questions that you're curious about the person. Like, if you notice that they have like an interesting piece of clothing on, maybe ask where they got it from. It looks good on them. Like, or if you notice that they let's say they mentioned they like to travel, what was your favorite place you went to? What was the thing that you learned when you're on this, where you're at this destination? Like, little random questions like that, just to build some type of rapport and connection with someone. Like, I remember okay, so a couple years ago I tried speed dating. Never again. But I tried speed dating, and this trick actually came in handy, because at the speed dating event, right, there was 20 women, there was 20 men, and we all had to date each other in within an hour and like 30 minutes, right? Or an hour 30 minutes to 2 hours. So each person is getting like 10 to 15 minutes. So time is literally compressed. So you quite literally have to be open in order to get to know the person, to suss them out and see if like, okay, do you want to continue on another date sometime later on? And doing that in such a short amount of time, it's actually really tiring. Try to remember who said what and the conversations you have. And I now understand why shows like Love is Blind, they give them notebooks to write down stuff. But my point is, even at a speed dating event, still had to use dolphin like language, where my posture was a little bit more open, so they knew I was receptive. I was making, softer eye contact. None of that squinty eyes that, you know, people who are trying to assess you will give you, like you're a doctor running an assessment. No, so no squinty eyes, you know, giving like small nods so they know, like, you know, I'm hearing them, not interrupting them, and just letting them speak and just having like a good back and forth. And once the more and more you do that, especially in different settings, and by then people already decided that you're safe and you don't pose as a threat. You start to notice that when you start leading with that more, you'll notice people will just naturally relax around you. They'll be more open to want to talk to you more. They'll be more open to even divulge some of their secrets. And this happened a few times. Um and at the end of the day, like, you don't want to force anything with anyone. You're not forcing your way in there. You're just being let in because you're present, you're aware, and you're engaged with that person. So the next time you step into a room, just remember to pause, to listen beyond the words that people are saying, and also lead with warmth and just be open. At the end of the day, it's not about losing whatever edge that you have, but it's really about choosing when exactly you want to use it. And trust me, people can feel that energy. So if this resonated with you, drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Are you guys watching this show, first of all? Like, are you watching The $1,000,000 Secret? Because it's a pretty good show. It's a really, really good show. I want to see who wins the cash prize at the end of the day. And let me know if there was a point in your time in your life that you came in guns blazing, you came in hot. How did that situation go? I want to know. And for more intimate conversations like this, first of all, join the shh and listen community, because you don't want to miss the next pillow talk. And watch this next video. It's just for you. Until next time.